Good evening, and welcome to the North Metro Mayors Association New Brighton Legislative Candidate Forum. Thank you all for joining us tonight. My name is Kathy Hampkin. I'm the Mayor of New Hope and also the President of the North Metro Mayors Association, and I'll be your moderator for tonight. The North Metro Mayors Association was created in 1987 as a nonpartisan organization advocating for issues and opportunities of importance to the northern suburbs and the Twin Cities. I'd like to thank the Twin Cities North Chamber of Commerce for partnering with us on today's forum. Our goal in sponsoring tonight's legislative candidate forum for House District 41B is to provide citizens with an opportunity to learn about the candidates' ideas, positions, and the positions on issues that we believe are important to the future of our communities. For tonight's forum, we will pose 5 prepared questions. Responses will be in rotating order with set time limits for the answers. I note that these limits are maximums and not minimums. We regret that we cannot cover all the issues of interest tonight due to time constraints. We'll focus on city and state governance, transportation, and finance questions. And we expect that there will be more forums where other issues will be addressed. We will solicit questions from the audience. We'll use as many of these questions as time permits. Please write your questions on the note cards available and give them to the North Metro Mayor staff in the back of the room, who will forward them to me. Questions will be addressed to each candidate, so please refrain from asking for responses from a specific candidate. I'm pleased to introduce our next candidates for tonight's forum, the House District 41B. The incumbent is, no, they wrote your last name down, but after they took the note away. Mary
Kunesh-Podein. Kunesh-Podein.
Thank you, Mary. And her challenger, Tim Utz. Thank you for being here. At this time, we'll have an opening statement. We'll start with Mary.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for being here this evening, and thanks for this opportunity to meet with all of you and talk to our community. I'm State Representative Mary Kunesh-Podein. I was elected 2 years ago to represent the great communities of Columbia Heights and Hilltop, the southern half of New Brighton and St. Anthony Village. And it's been an incredible 2 years and an incredible opportunity for me. I sit on the Ed Policy Committee, the Agriculture Committee, the State Government Finance Committee. I was also assigned to the School Trust Lands Committee, and also sit on the Select Committee on Technology and Responsive Government. So you can imagine that these 2 years have been an incredible learning time for me. When I'm not at the Capitol, I am an educator. I'm a library media specialist, and I work in the Robbinsdale area schools. I'm at the middle school. Today and this whole week we've been handing out Chromebooks to all of our students, so my mind is a little buzzy tonight, but it's really been a joy to be able to be an educator, and now I absolutely love being able to be the representative for the communities in this area. Thank you.
Tim?
Welcome everybody. I'd like to thank everybody for attending tonight. I would also like to thank the organizations for their sponsorship of this event. I want to introduce you to 2 groups tonight, our state constitution and me. I got 2 points of the state constitution. I'd like to read you the preamble and the first article, the object of government. The preamble of the state's constitution is very specific and very clear, stating, "We, the people of the state of Minnesota, grateful to God for our civil and religious liberty, and desiring to perpetuate its blessings and secure the same for ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution." And Article 1 of the Bill of Rights, Section 1, describes the object of government. Government is instituted for the security and benefit and protection of the people, in whom all political power is inherent, together with the right to alter, modify, and reform our government whenever required for the public good. As we as people and government have lost touch with the purpose and function of government and its limits. As for me, I'm a concerned citizen. I've been continually serving my community for years. I have a husband, I'm a father, a grandfather, and a parent that cares about my kids and our family's future. I'm a fighter for liberty, I have challenged the political establishment of the major parties in my community for 10, 11, 12 years. I understand the limits and restrictions of a representative's power. I'm a big guy with an even bigger heart for people. I'm here to serve the district in the House of Representatives. For more information, because I can't say it all tonight, visit my website at wevotetimutz.com.
Thank you. At this time, we will go to our prepared questions. This will be done in rotating order with a rebuttal opportunity. There's a 2-minute time limit for each answer, and each candidate will be answered. After each candidate has answered, there will be a rebuttal opportunity of 45-second time limit. We'll start with Tim. First question. What are the top 1 or 2 issues you hear while campaigning, and if elected, what will you do in a collaborative way to address these issues?
I hear 2 big issues: taxes, high taxes, and what will you actually do what you say you're going to do? There's been a disconnect with our representatives where people are so frustrated that they vote for somebody, they go to the legislature or wherever they go in public service, and they stop doing what they said they're going to do. Those characteristics and the discipline to do what you say you're going to do is inward. It comes from the heart. And I have studied and practiced serving the Constitution, serving our community for a decade. As a principle I've learned has become part of who I am. But I will be able to do what I say I'm going to do when I get to the Capitol. As far as high taxes come with big government. If we want big government and a lot of spending and less freedom and liberty, then we're going to get higher taxes. And when people have to understand the connection between high taxes across the board and your liberty and your freedoms that you are going to lose in that process.
Thank you. Mary?
I would say that 2 important issues that I've heard from folks as I've been out there. One is around education, and especially when folks know that I'm an educator. We know that our school districts are struggling financially. The federal government never really pays their full portion, and then that leaves the Minnesota state as well as our local communities to make ends meet. Oftentimes there's referendum after referendum, and parents and people get tired of that. But the fact is that it is our moral obligation to educate our communities. And I'm going to tell you that I feel like our schools do the very best that they can with not enough ever. As a teacher, I think the best time I ever had educating is when the legislature mandated small class sizes. And when they were fully funding a lot of the programs that they insist on. The cross-subsidy responsibility and burden that our classes have, that our schools have, is really detrimental to the education of the entire community, of the entire school district. So that is one thing that I would want to continue to look at, and ensuring that we don't have more unfunded mandates. Another one is housing. Housing is getting very scarce, it's getting very expensive, and I've been fortunate enough to work with an organization that's looking at how we can manage manufactured home communities and looking at that first-time homeowners assistance once again.
A rebuttal? Rebuttal?
Oh, thank you.
You guys are so polite. Both parties agree that increased funding is needed for road and transit system improvements. How would you propose these funds be raised? We'll start with Mary.
So the bottom line is that we need to have our roads and our transit in good form for economic growth, for folks to get to and from work, to have the kind of quality of life that we want. But then Minnesota isn't able to, they've shown that they haven't been able to raise funds enough to continue through the gas tax to maintain our roads and bridges. One of the suggestions is increasing the gas tax, and I understand that we have one of the highest gas tax, but you have to look at our transit system. You have to look at the roads that we have. If you compare it to our states in the south, they don't have the changing climates that we have and the constant maintenance that we have. While I wouldn't say exactly an increase in that gas tax. I think it's something that we need to look at. But I think we also need to look at alternative ways of transporting so that we don't have those excess taxes, such as expanding our bus services, our commuter rails, our light rail. We need to look at how we can expand on clean energy transportation. And most especially, I am not looking to take monies out of the general fund that are going to go towards that.
Thank you. Tim?
Article 4 of our state constitution clearly articulates the funding of public transportation, roads and bridges. What's happened in the last 3 or 4 decades, the definition or the interpretation of the term transportation has been broadened. It has gone from roads and bridges to include bike paths, trails, bus service, rail service, recreational trails, on and on and on, the list is gone. Instead of sticking to the principles of our Constitution and allowing local municipalities, regional areas like the Met Council, whatever, to raise those sources and do their magic however they want to do in the communities, we've delegated that to the state by stripping the definitions of our Constitution and broadening the justification for spending and raising revenue and taxes. Thus, what would be a normal balance in funding our roads and bridges has been depleted by these actions in the legislature over the last 3 or 4 decades.
Okay, rebuttal, Mayor? Rebuttal?
Nope.
Okay.
Good.
What should be the role of the Metropolitan Council in guiding policy development in North Metro? We'll start with Tim.
As mentioned in 41A's conversation, in 1967, the Metro Council was created as an organization to work with the communities in the metropolitan area to kind of manage sewer and water. Over the decades, again, government, once it's established, tends to like to grow. Now we have a staff of about 3,700 employees and an annual budget running right around $1 billion a year for the Metropolitan Council. It has gotten into real estate development, it's a commercial landlord, it's a regional rail transportation, it's land management, zoning and property, water rights. On and on the list goes that the Metropolitan Council has turned into. It doesn't guide anymore, it dictates. Right now, Columbia Heights is going through the 2040 comprehensive plan. Thank you for that assistance. Comprehensive plan. I've been watching that from the sidelines in our community. It's very frustrating for our members of our public community, the city council and so on, because the Metropolitan Council doesn't ask anybody anymore, they dictate. We need to go, the legislature needs to get control of this organization and put it back in its box it belongs in. If we don't, it's just going to continue to expand and grow and consider the liberties and the choices that communities have. Columbia Heights is not Edina, Edina is not Columbia Heights or St. Anthony or whatever. We need to allow our communities to actually be able to function freely within our areas. Working together is fine. I really support the concept, I've heard this talked about before, that the Met Council is actually, instead of the governor appoint these people, have the cities or the counties actually have elections to appoint these members of the board that control the Metropolitan Council. It would be a really good way to get some control back to the Met Council. Thank you.
Mary?
So I think the answer is in the question, in the fact that the Metropolitan Council should act as a guiding policy tool. I know that when communities work together, when they pool their resources, when they're able to communicate across the lines and the borders, they can be much more efficient. And so I would like to see the Met Council continue to do the work that it does in a guiding way. I know that they are able to look at the full picture of the communities and speak with the different communities, the different leaders, looking for ways that they can collaborate on those issues. And so while there are sometimes strong issues with the Metropolitan Council, I would like to see it continue in its guiding role to the communities in order to have more efficiencies and rather than everybody working separately in their silos, oftentimes perhaps competing with resources or supplies, that the Met Council is able to bring them together and work as a collaborative unit.
Rebuttal? Rebuttal? Okay. If elected, what would be your top priority as it relates to the North Metro business community? We'll start with Mary.
I would like to make it a priority to communicate with the cities and the administration that I represent. This past session, just before we began, I contacted all the cities that I represent, asked them if I could meet with them, talk with them, find out what their bonding issues are, not just now, but in the future and down the road, so that we can look at how we can create good policy and legislation for that. And that's sort of what I would like to continue to do. I'd like to open that communication with the communities that I represent. I was able to get some funding to help with the flood mitigation and finish that project in Mirror Lake and St. Anthony. I did have legislation for safe crossings on Central Avenue, which is one of the worst roadways for accidents and pedestrian issues. That didn't pass, but it came very close to doing that, and that's the sort of thing that I would continue to do. I want to look for a bonding bill that's realistic and authentic, and also look at what we can do to reinvest in Minnesota as far as our housing goes, possibly expanding that working family credit and tax breaks for our low and middle income folks.
Thank you. Tim?
I would work on reducing the impact of government as it impacts the function of business. We have very repetitive overlaying layers of bureaucracy in government that impact businesses. It impacts individuals too. They don't recognize it as much as businesses do. I had a business for 4 years, and I found out firsthand how this all fits in and how it all works together and interferes with the choices I want to make as a business owner. I would also promote our community in the area to this national level, to the state level, and to other parts of the country. It's a lot of fun. I've been campaigning this year actually focusing on businesses and talking to business owners. I did not realize in Columbia Heights the people that make the basement access restraining the galvanized steel metal is in Columbia Heights. I had no idea. They sell it to Menards, Home Depot, and other businesses. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And they're like a half mile from my house. I just want to share with everybody one thing. This is an example of bureaucracy. I happened to stop at State Capitol the other day, and this is called a Guide to Starting a Business in Minnesota. Now, for any business people, good luck with this. And remember, this is just a guide to starting. This isn't all of it. 360 pages of double-spaced fine print with about maybe 200 links in the back for other organizations and businesses or government agencies that you need to contact if you want to start a business in Minnesota. Now, you can start a business in Minnesota, but if you don't comply with this and a few other things that are listed in the back here, links, you can find yourself in a lot of hot water as a business. This is just one example of bureaucracy that we're experiencing. This is impacting our business, our homes, our lives, and our families.
Mary, rebuttal?
Just the one thing that I would say is that it is our duty as a legislator to make sure that we have safe policies in there that protect all of us in every aspect of our life and our community. So when you look at that book, there are very many laws and statutes and rules in there. Of course, not everyone that are going to pertain to them. There's also a lot of great resources that our state government provides for those that are starting out businesses. So while it's not all do this, don't do this, don't do this, there are a lot of resources there that are helping people start their jobs, their businesses, that are helping them understand the regulations that are out there. So it's not nearly such a dire situation. It's certainly an intimidating challenge, but there are resources there for us.
Tim?
Nope.
Minnesota business property taxes are among the highest in the nation. What would you do as the legislator to address this? Tim?
There's no way around this, folks. Big taxes are a result of a love for big government. Big government is not a friend to the Constitution. Our government is not our landlord, is not our best friend. Government is not our parent or advisor. Government is not a cure for every ailment. Government is not a lending institution. Government is not a personal provider, a babysitter, and government especially is not a sugar daddy. We have somehow talked ourselves into believing that these are all appropriate functions of our government, and they're not. They're for us as individuals, for our families, and our community to resolve. That's it.
Mary?
So businesses are of course a very intricate part of our communities, and as we see business moving further north, as Northeast has redeveloped itself and it's moving further north and further north, more and more businesses are going to be coming our way. And we want to be inviting, we want to ensure that they are successful, because when they come to our communities, it enhances our communities. Yes, we have high property taxes, but those businesses enjoy all of the services that we all enjoy as well. We're providing their water, their sewer, we're plowing their the road in front of their business, we're providing green spaces and a really welcoming environment. So you get what you pay for. And if businesses come to our community, and businesses stay, if you look at what's going on 694, those big businesses, those big corporations are not leaving, they're expanding, they're bringing more folks into our community. And it's important that if they want to be a part of our community, that they also pay a fair share of it. They're getting huge profits from all of us. And if they can find a way, if we can incorporate them back into our communities, then it's a win-win for all of us. I would look for a fair tax system that allows everyone to have a really good quality of life. Perhaps we need to ferret out any of the outdated or draconian regulations, but you know, you get what you pay for.
Tim, Rebecca? Mary, Rebecca? Thank you. At this time, we'll take the audience questions. And we will start with Mary. What committees would you like to serve on as House Rep?
So I am currently on the Education Policy Committee, and I thoroughly enjoy that. As a teacher, I'm boots on the ground. I've been teaching for over 20 years, and so I've seen the change over time and understand the frustration not only of our teachers, but of our administration and our families. And so I would like to continue to work on that committee. I'm also on the Agriculture Committee, and I asked to be on the Agriculture Committee. I grew up in rural Minnesota in a very agricultural farming community, and I want to find ways to support not just my own community, but those outside of Minnesota, or out of our 41B and rural Minnesota. I'm on the school trust lands, and I would like to continue that. I'm finding it very fascinating as I learn of how we, since statehood, we have been tasked with providing income for our schools based on the lands that the federal government deemed to us.
Thank you. And Tim, what committees would you like to serve on if elected to the House of Representatives?
Well, one of my first ones would be education. My background in construction. When I was in high school, I got really excited about construction, had wood shop, all that kind of fun stuff. It was a lot of fun. What I've discovered in Minnesota, that was out of California, but I've discovered in Minnesota over the last 3-4 decades again, is we've pushed our kids and our whole education system into going to college. We've abandoned the trades and so on and so forth, and other areas of education, and we focus on how to get to go to college. I would like to be on education to help restore that as a priority. Judiciary, I'd love to be on judiciary. I have a personal issue with justices and judges who are rogue, who legislate from the bench. Taxes, I'd like to be on a tax committee to try and do my best to conform us and our actions as a legislature to our constitutional limits.
Okay,
Yes, that's it.
next question, and this will be for Tim. Please tell us about your personal experience with diverse groups or individuals, and how does that benefit our district?
I just love this question because I don't see color, I don't see race. You'll see me out talking to the Spanish community while they're playing volleyball over up in North Columbia Heights. I go, wherever I go, I just don't see color. So for me, that question is kind of like, I don't know, irrelevant or whatever, because I see everybody as the same. I have a lot of fun meeting people from diverse communities. I love going down Central Avenue, taking time eating at different places. I think there's 47 different places to eat on Central Avenue in Columbia Heights. I don't think any one of them have the same type of food. If you really want an experience, hit Central Avenue and spend some money. You can eat for a month down there and not eat the same type of food.
Thank you.
So in our community, at the legislature, I sit on a caucus called the Posse Caucus, People of Color Indigenous. And that was a come together of senators and legislation, people of color, to look at how we can promote policies that are going to help and enhance the lives of the of people of color, as well as those that are often struggling in our communities. I'm also a member of the very first ever Native American caucus. There were 4 of us that were made this caucus in the House, and we'll be down to 2 this next session. But I'm very active in the community. I began I'm one of the beginners of the New Brighton Farmers Market, and if you ever go up there on a Wednesday, you'll see that there are just incredible groups of folks coming of all different cultures and sharing the evening with all of us. I have made really good friends with folks in the Somali community, with the Tibetan community. We have a much larger Native American community than anyone would think that's here, and it is my joy to represent them at the Capitol as well as in our community.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We'll start with Mary on this one. If you could eliminate one state office, agency, or bureaucracy, which one would it be and why?
I guess my answer to that is that I would really need a lot more information, because when you eliminate a committee or a group that runs in the government, you're kind of taking out bits and pieces of a whole. And when you start to remove groups that are part of the moving parts of our government without a really thorough plan of how you're going to either replace it or how it's going to be taken care of, I think you're actually kind of destroying the government as a whole, or the body as a whole. And so if we were going to have to remove or take away, I just want to always remind people, when I'm sitting in the state government finance and the current majority is saying cut 10% here, cut 10% there, do this, you're talking about people. You're talking about people that are losing their job, they are losing their benefits, they are losing their livelihood. And before that happens, I think that there has to be thorough investigation, there has to be a thorough understanding of if this is working, why it isn't working, and if it's not working, how we're going to make it work, and if it isn't necessary, then what are we going to do to make it more efficient?
Thank you. Tim?
I'm glad Mary had that question first. Gave me a chance to think of a department. I hope I get this right. I would say it's the freeway Metro Ramp Access Metering Department. I've had a problem with them since I saw the first meter. That's about all I got to say about that. That would be it.
Okay. And Tim, you get this one first.
Oh, no, I thought we were done.
No.
Oh.
Sweetheart, you are a long ways from being done.
All right.
Hang in there. Could you elaborate on your thoughts regarding the Second Amendment?
Sure, I got 60 seconds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hunting, self-defense, a lot of these issues that the Second Amendment is connected to are natural rights that we have. They're unrelated to the Second Amendment. I'd suggest you get out a piece of paper and write down this date, July 6, 1775. It's the declaration of the right to bear arms by our founding fathers before we actually declared independence from England. It's a document that I suggest everybody read to give you an understanding. It's the only purpose of the Second Amendment is for the civilian population to defend himself against the tyranny of the state. That's the purpose of the Second Amendment. And it's articulated better than I ever will in that document from July 6, 1775.
Thank you. Mary?
Will you repeat that, please?
Could you elaborate on your thoughts regarding the Second Amendment?
I support the Second Amendment. I support the right to bear arms. My husband is a avid hunter, carries his, what is that called?
Sidearm? Holster?
Well,
Permit.
what is that, permit
Permit
to
to
carry?
Yep.
I'm myself am not a big fan of guns. We used guns like crazy when we were kids and we didn't have license, but I am not looking to take away guns. I'm not looking to be a gun grabber. I think we need to have safety issues, safety policies out there so that guns aren't getting into the folks that shouldn't have them. And it's a really serious issue as more and more schools are being affected and kids are being affected. We do need to make sure that there are safety, really sensible safety gun policies in order to protect all of us in whatever situation we are in.
Well, that's the end of our questions for this forum. We'll now go to the closing statements of our candidates in the reverse order of their opening statements. I'm assuming that's you first.
Okay. Well, thank you for allowing me to be here this evening and put some thoughts out there for everyone to think about. I grew up in a very large family of 13 kids, and we learned really early that we needed to work together in order to get the work done for the best of all of us. And that is the mantra that I live by, and I've lived by that all my life. When I go to the legislature, I'm there to look at what we can do to improve Minnesota, improve our communities. I don't feel like I have alternative plans or issues when I go in there, and really look forward to the opportunity to go back after November 6th and represent our communities once again. And so I would ask once again for this community to vote for me to be your representative come November 6th. Thank you.
Yeah.
This election season in House District 41B, we have to decide if we want larger, ever-growing, ever-expanding government and the price the ticket pay for that, or do we want to start taking care of ourselves and start restraining our government? I want to leave you with a number to think about in your head. I want you to remember 14,500. That's what's the number of voters expected to participate in this House district in 2018. It's about 14,500. On November 6, 2018, there will be 28,086 eligible voters in this district. So roughly half the population of eligible voters are not expected to participate. I'm asking those people to step forward this year and vote for me, to send a message to the legislature that it's not party politics as usual anymore. I've asked you to declare your independence and vote for Tim Utz on November 6th, 2018.
Okay. That brings us to the close of this candidate forum for the State House Representatives. We'd like to thank the candidates, the audience, the cable staff, Twin City North Chamber and the City of New Brighton for hosting this forum. Please remember to vote on November 6th.
Thank you.